Marketing is a means to an end. And the end is the growth of the business in a profitable way.
We have 5 new pieces of creative. And so I said, what if we did this?
No bidding strategy is going to cure a bad business model.
Very true. This is where it's really crazy.
Wow.
I love that intro.
How about that intro?
Oh, that was really good.
Look at how
I got a kick out of
professional we're yeah.
I know, right? then it fades away, and I'm like, wow.
Oh, wow, that's cool. I actually want to stay and watch.
And I'm like, shh, they're about to talk.
They're about to talk now. Well, kudos to the amazing marketing team at Tier 11 for putting that one together.
Yeah,
I have a feeling that was
really well.
I feel like it was Shintaro and Allison. Shout out to those guys.
Yeah, that came out fantastic.
Yeah, I love it. The best part is like we had no input on it whatsoever.
It's the best type.
The best type.
I usually will. Anything creative, I will mess up.
Yeah, I'll give advice, but it's usually the wrong advice. So
it's exactly.
Anyway,
I used to say things like, I used to say things like, I don't know how to do it, but I know what I like to see, and that actually doesn't really mean anything.
That means you stay away from actually doing the producing and the creative.
Exactly.
Right. Just run the ads. Just do the strategy.
Blows me away. It works.
Yeah, it's good.
Awesome.
Well, if you haven't gotten the memo, this is the Ad Lab, straight from the Performance Kitchen. Actually, we have a tagline here. I'll just read. Live from the lab. Join us in our Performance Kitchen, cooking up chaos. Watch our weekly test go live, learn what converts, and steal the formulas.
That's awesome.
How about that?
I love
Performance Kitchen.
Sounds great.
So anyway, all right. Well, here we are in the Ad Lab, and John is cooking up performance in the Performance Kitchen. Mm-hmm. You've got some really tasty recipes brewing, I hear, and especially some follow-ups and some of the ones that some of the recipes that I think we got the list of stuff we have to get in the grocery store. We got it home, put it all together, mashed it all up, threw it in the oven, and I think right now you're ready to pull it out and tell us is it done yet, or is it you still need another 20 minutes? What's going on? So give us an update on some of the things you've been doing in the Ad Lab.
Absolutely. I think to continue on with that analogy, you were watching every step where it's now we're gonna we're gonna cut it this way. Now we're gonna put it in the oven. It's been baking for a while, and what we expected to happen is sort of happening, which I like to kind of back up a little bit, and rather than just diving right into the metrics, we are absolutely going to get to, especially on my small test of the new Andromeda update and how it is acting, and what the new model is for kind of go forward. I want to talk about the philosophy a bit of the reasoning behind Meta's changes, and also even Google's changes. The interesting part about the Andromeda update, and the interesting thing about having all of the ads inside of one ad set, and also having the users locked into that ad set, is forcing almost advertisers to go back to traditional way of marketing. It also is providing a better user experience for the people who are on Meta and Instagram, which is, I think, the number one factor for the change, because people don't want to be picture of a dog 20% off. And then it's my update from my cousin at 30% off. And so it's not, they don't want it to turn into kind of this big, big sale platform. They're going to ruin the user experience. People are going to just kind of hop off. They want to grow, learn, engage, educate. They want to be involved, like a forum, like a community. And so what Meta has been producing in terms of the content diversification, the founder story, the UGC, the ad AIs, the testimonials, all of those different ways that they're doing content diversification, is to educate the user on a story, engage them where they may be at in their funnel, and lock them into that ad set so that they can continue to produce results from that campaign, because they're finding more and more opportunities. It essentially removes a lot of the the highly structural technical media buying, not the technical media buying, but the highly structural technical, like if they did this on Tuesday, then we do this with them on Friday kind of thing. And I have another test that I'm running with another company that I can kind of show a little bit of it on this live here. But then I also have my main case study. But I want to give you kind of some different variations. But the reasoning as to why is something I think I kind of skip over a lot. And what I have been seeing more often in the way that Meta is deploying those changes is more to how people are subconsciously buying nowadays. And I believe this is something that we all do, but we all have that cognitive dissonance where it's like it's not necessarily our frontal lobe as aware, it's more subconscious. When we start to engage with purchases on social media, what we're actually doing is being force-fed content on the front end of our phones, like through Facebook and Meta and YouTube. And then the landing page is simply a confirmation of what I've already learned. So an extreme case of this, and it's something I'm working on with another company now, but they have an 1.5-hour webinar that they push people through for an education, and then they sell them the full course at the end. And it is a fantastic company, fantastic product. Like their core offering is spot on, second to none, excellent. But I think that the original thought process on deploying the model might be still a little bit old school. And I say old school as in like a year ago kind of thing, like not old school at all from a digital marketing perspective. But what we're testing now is taking their 1.5-hour webinar and breaking it up into smaller chunks. And those smaller chunks are becoming creative.
Oh, yeah. Great idea.
Yep. So
Love
this
that.
way, exactly. So this way, I now don't have to put up an email wall and then ask for your digital currency, which is your email, to then tell you why I'm special or what
Lower the gate.
For you.
No gate.
Exactly. And as you're scrolling through, I'm educating you in micro chunks. So it's like I'm now convincing and selling even pre-click. And it's the reason why Amazon is 40% of the e-commerce is because that is how people are being educated and are purchasing. They are being educated via ads/landing page, but the conversion will happen on Meta. But if I didn't have a landing page, could this still work? Of course. That's why Amazon businesses are in place. So due to the fact that Amazon is a thing, due to the fact that Amazon businesses are a thing, due to the fact that people are educating themselves in content pre-click on Meta, we're sort of skipping the PDPs in terms of levels of importance. It's almost like a shopping cart now, or a confirmation of what I'm already engaging with. So for Meta to say, hey, you need to take your landing page, break it out into bite-sized chunks and create ad copy with it, it's essentially what they're asking us to do. So what we're looking at is when we ran this test for the glove company, and I'm going to go ahead and share screen and explain this.
Yep.
When we were starting to break out we broke out the landing page into educational pieces of content. This is that first week where we only had like the 2-click attributeds. And we still have 19 ads live. We had 50, but it was like a Mother's Day, then a Father's Day, then a Memorial Day. And so, we ended up having to stop those sales, but we still have all the original ads that were not, seasonal, still running and still live all the way back from over a month ago. I have not touched anything else besides shutting off the seasonal ads and then tripling the ad spend. It's the only thing I've done.
People haven't seen the previous episode. This is a bespoke glove company from like handmade in Vermont. Not something that people are waking up in the morning and saying, hey, I need a luxury high-end glove.
I need a $120 leather glove.
No. $120, like I can get, a pair of gloves at, Home Depot for $10. But
exactly, exactly. I used this as an example earlier today because I'm educating a lot of our clients on the type of content that we need to start to produce for them and the reasons as to why. And it's exactly right. If I never visit the website and of this glove company, and I'm only engaging in the ads, there is nothing the website is going to tell me that I don't already know. And that's kind of the purpose of this, is if you're engaging in the first ad, the one that people have engaged with the most, which is interesting, the one that we have the most amount of sales, we have an $18 CPA in platform. We have it was $1,800 in ad spend. The next one down is only $318, but that $1,700 in ad spend that has gone to the first ad here, the one that has the highest amount of engagement, has 73 7-day click attributed conversions and is pumping out 93 totals. So it's much higher than the other ones. However, this is one of the most informative. It is an inseam stitching for dexterity. It is seamless pointer finger for performance. It is additional welt on the secondary seam, so this is a high wear area. It is double walled palm for longevity. It's vein protector. So if you're working and something slices the glove, it's got an additional flap to cover your veins. It is a 2-inch goat leather cuff. It is made in our own factory right here in the United States in Vermont. Now, would you pay $120? I'm getting closer because that's much different than the Home Depot off the brand shelf. So, and then when you're looking at now the actual process of it, like you're seeing people who, and I know this is going to sound weird, but look like who I am if I'm in this industry, more blue collar-esque, and they are hand making these things right here in the United States. It is what it looks like after 1,000 days of use, the before and after. I know this will be around forever. Like I'm now understanding everything that I need to know about this product, and also how it is how durable it is through like chain testing and stuff like that. Like I now know it lasts long. It's made here. There's 7 features that I didn't know of before. It is, all of this information that I am now getting off of these ads and getting off of this information is all before I went to the website.
Yeah.
So conversion rate on our site has actually increased exponentially. Now I'm going to talk about that here in a moment.
Which makes complete sense. Can I just mention one thing, that the ad that is getting all the conversions, it seems to like it's a very feature, not benefit based ad, but it seems to me, I don't know if this is accurate, it seems more of a bottom of funnel, like, oh, I just want to reinforce that the thing is really good because you caught my attention with another ad, maybe with a video ad or like the story or like how it's made. And this is like the last click ad because it's sort of the final thing I need in order to say, I'm going to pay $120 for a pair of gloves.
Right.
But is that what you're seeing in your data here? Or is it getting a lot of just like, hey, that looks really cool. I've never seen a glove like that before. First click. Like, is there any way to tell based upon how the algorithm is working? Like what is top of funnel primarily? What is bottom of funnel?
Right. And what's interesting is we don't know, because we have not started our iterations yet. That's my first test, is just, let's say if I let this thing ran, how would the users flow through it? Right. But since we don't actually have a founder story or why we created this, or, why this glove company even exists, was there even a need for it? We haven't touched that. We haven't even scratched that surface yet. So the closest thing to a top of funnel is, thank God everyone knows what a glove is. If this was the brand new WYSIWYG, we'd be in a lot bigger trouble. But
what? There's a thing you can wear over your hands?
I know, right?
Oh my God, I never knew that existed.
Yeah, like if I'd be like introducing the glove, whoa, tell me more. Like,
whoa,
we skipped that part.
So it's not a mitten?
Right.
Oh my God, John, this is
what's amazing. A work glove now? I have a snow glove, but so what we saw is, like, whether it was right or wrong, this is what the first ads that people started to click and buy from, which is what we saw. It ended up being the first pushed and the first essentially to market, and it got the majority of the ad spend up front. And that trend did not change. This one here, that's the first week that got $60 in spend with a $20 CPA. In the first week, if we look at since the inception, that $60 in spend has turned into $1,700, and that $19 CPA is now down to $18. It's $1 cheaper after going from $60 to $1,700.
Yeah.
So it still is leading the charge. Now, is it right? Probably not. Could we have a better ad that we could have led with? Absolutely. Was this good enough? It was.
If we're talking, metrics that matter and growth that scales, something tells me that's a very effective ad from a business standpoint at that particular NCAC. I mean, we're talking about CPA, but we're really talking about NCAC because we're assuming everybody's a new customer in this particular case because it's a relatively new brand. So
right, and when we're looking at year-over-year performance, where our sessions over time has only changed 6%, but our conversion rate's up 68%. Hey, and this is where we started to launch. This is year-over-year performance. So February,
you're warming them up off-site before they even get there. Right.
Exactly. Like we had February was 3% better. Then we went 22% better. Then we started these campaigns and went 70% better. Last month was 115% or better, 115% better. So far, month to date, 174% better. And we've actually spent less, which is quite interesting when you compare this whole account year over year. Let me turn off the is active. If we look at the overall account year over year, there's 17 total campaigns, and we spent, let's do this here. Yeah, compare previous year. There we go. Yeah, that is 5/14, 6/19, 2024, 5/14, 6/19, 2025. We spent 6% less and are scaling up now 174% better with the same amount of customers. Same spend, same sessions, 68% better conversion rate. Excellent. So we already know this is more effective, but that is what's interesting is your website's conversion rate could be drastically affected by how educated were these users before the click.
100%.
So
people don't think about that though. Like that's just a novel concept just unto itself. Like that's a big takeaway just to think about. Like, oh, my conversion rate is 1%. Well, okay. That probably means that a lot of cold traffic who have no idea or maybe stumble on your site for whatever reason, or maybe aren't pre-educated on your brand are coming to your site. You're getting a 1% conversion rate, which I believe is about average in the industry. It's about 1 to 2% maybe. You know, less than 1% is sort of suboptimal, but overall.
And that's kind of where we were, really.
Yeah.
I mean, AOV didn't change, 0.1. Sessions over time, year over year, last 4 months did not change at 6%. But our conversion rates are up across the board. 6% more sessions, 70% more added carts, 61% more reached checkouts, and 78% more completed checkouts. All because
areas
before
for like increasing average order value and LTV in this client. But anyway, I'll refrain from any of those.
Well, that's when we're looking at CRO though.
Totally.
It's like CRO. It's like CRO is, yes, it is a portion, but judging CRO by conversion rate by its lonesome is half the battle.
CRO is largely determined about how effective your media is.
Absolutely. I mean, if I was like, hey, you know, I got a free Xbox 360, just click on this ad and you get there and it's just like, do you need more Viagra?
Yeah.
No, what I knew I was getting into was way off than when I got there.
Is that on johnmoran.com, by the way?
Oh, yes. Use coupon code Life is Hard. And you So that's what's kind of interesting is even the way that we're educating these users pre-click is what I say is people are now being fed micro education through feeds. They have a news stream every day. And that news stream is not, hey, trust me, this landing page, kick ass. Everything you want to know, it's over there. I got a product. I'll tell you about it, but only when you click. It's kind of dead and gone now. Yeah. And that's where we have to definitely look at to say anything that we would want to show them on our website, segment that out and then create that into its own ad. That is telling the story the way that a person now wants to learn. Remember when we had like content creation, syndication, publication, and amplification? You remember all those like 10 years ago?
Totally.
It's the same shit. We're just taking our landing page content and syndicating it now as an ad and then throwing ad spend behind it. It's the same thing. Ryan Dice was, a godfather of genius, but it's still true to this day. So
is it safe to say that you should take your best gated or hidden content, i.e. the webinar that you were talking about? We talked to a client this week that, was doing an 1.5-hour webinar. I'm like, why are you gating that? What I kept thinking. And we've done this in many cases. We actually have a great case study where we did exactly that. We turned it into an ungated, either a singular video or multi-part video and just ungated this thing. And people watched it like hundreds of times and then eventually just, filled out an application to get a coaching call or a consulting call to eventually sell a $2,000 product. Right. The same kind of thing. So it's like, just ungate your best stuff and use that as ads. Is that sort of the bottom line here?
That's exactly right. I think what we're doing is I don't have permission to share this, so I'm just going to kind of give some snapshots of like the technicals. I'll get permission to kind of do a deeper dive and we can share this. But we have we have this this company that offers this like a medical billing and coding type of class, and you can buy it online and you can start your journey in your education. But there's a webinar that goes through why you're going to buy this, and it's a long form of a sales presentation. So we started to do that where we're taking the stuff that is gated and trying to bring it to the forefront. And then we're using the first click imports to see optimize towards the actual people who finished. As an example, this one, we still have the webinar viewers. There's 2,500 people that have started the webinar. Only 1,300 have finished the webinar. So about half. But that's been optimizing now towards these $10 completers. And we're already starting to see that those people who are going through and finishing the webinar are purchasing the course at eight, where this one is 4. However, this one is spending a whole lot less. So I have a new test I'll be able to dive into, but what we're looking at here is taking that gated content, pushing it to the front, and then saying, can we just start to get you to purchase the class by pushing the webinar in front of you versus having to push you through the webinar. And so far, again, this just went live not too long ago.
That's a great test.
Yeah, and basically the test started. I mean, we're looking at. I mean, was it the 14th? So 6 days ago when we actually like turned it on. So, I mean, we don't even have enough for us to really be able to showcase this as a case study just yet. But as a quick example, we know that on 1,400 we have 8, or 14,000 we have 8. So quick math here, 14,446 divided by 8 is $1,800 CPA. The one right here is $1,000 CPA. So it's like 45% cheaper to take the webinar, kind of push it as an ad. And we have some ad-esque webinars that still kind of goes through the webinar funnel, but there's going to be some more information that we're going to be trying this year, where our thought process is, if I don't gate it, if I just take the webinar, break it into chunks, show it to you, you're now getting a webinar before you click, and then I can push you towards a purchase.
Right.
So it's definitely a newer test, a newer style of thinking. Everyone I've talked to about this, which is, basically me, my mirror, and like 2 other people, all agree. And
us.
Yeah.
Us kids. Yep.
Exactly. So, but it's weird when I've been presenting this, it kind of starts to click. They're like, okay, I think I learned that way. I engage with content that way. I don't want to sit there and read your landing page, but if I'm bored on Facebook and you have more interesting, cool things that you want to share with me, I'll listen if it's good enough. And that's what we're up against now. Is your content good enough? Can I tell you a story? Can I convince you? Can I use my traditional marketing that hasn't changed in 200 years to do the same thing? And so that's where we have to take our thought process is now. It used to be, I've been saying this where it's email used to be digital currency. Now it's becoming a click.
Yeah, it is. And you can retarget those clicks probably more effectively than you can the emails in so many ways. It's like the click is so much easier to get, but then the email has deliverability issues and all the other sorts of things that go along with it. And you're not going to get as many as a result of it because you're gating, and people are like, is this content going to be good enough that I'm going to give up my name and my email address? We still have that sort of quandary every time you're faced with like an opt-in box for anything. I certainly am. Just look at your phone. How many friggin', spam messages do you get every single day because you gave out your phone number, to all these people and, God knows who. The point is that this is how people truly do interact. And I remember this lesson very, very early on. I might have said it here on the ad. I was about to say Tier 11 Live. Is that remember when I first bought my first info product? It was Product Launch Formula by Jeff Walker. And I watched that thing. He gated it. You had to put in your name and email address. But I watched the replay like 8 or 9 times before I decided to buy a $2,000 program, which at that point in time was all the money in the world for me.
Oh yeah.
And Jeff Walker still gated everything. But now if you look at how he does things, he doesn't gate anything.
Right.
It's exactly what you're talking about here. And that always stuck with me. It's like people don't necessarily, you don't think they're going to do what you want them to do. I'm going to watch the webinar once and then I'm going to apply for the coaching. It's like, that's not how it works. They need to consume it in a lot of different ways, through retargeting ads, through maybe other snippets, reminders, things that they see in the newsfeed. And oh yeah, the big, the big 1 hour presentation that shows like the value of the program. All of that together, you ungate it, it makes so much more sense, because that's how we as humans buy.
I mean, that's back in previous agency that will not be named. We had, I had 1,000 videos on that YouTube channel of like my brain just out there. And everyone could have taken that, stolen everything I've ever done in my life, put me completely out of business, and did them themselves. They didn't, because they appreciate the education and they are happy to learn, and they feel, not to get too touchy feely, they feel more connected with me. They're like, I'm a brand now because I've been explaining the story. And so those are what our clients and our people watching this, they can do that. If you are able to teach a user the way they want to be taught, which is right now, Meta is still the best platform for ads on an outbound perspective. And as long as they're learning in chunks and you're speaking to them in all of the different variations that Meta wants us to use inside of a ad set, that's where we're seeing, and I'll kind of jump back into this one screen share, because this sort of now starts to explain the reasoning why this is doing this here. Let's see. Could you share the screen for me, sir? There we are. So since we've started up until today, these are obviously the ads that we had to turn off because of the seasonality and like Father's Day and stuff like that. So we just look at the ones that are even just still active. Each one of these ads here, whether they have $1,700 in ad spend or $5 in ad spend, my CPA rarely goes over $20 to $25. More under 20s. I have a $31 here and there that, that makes sense because it's duplicated. And I'm gonna turn this off soon. I just told myself I'm not touching anything until this is something I need to update. But I mean, $5 and $5 sale, $8 sale, $13 sale. I'll take all these little onesie twosies cheap CPA because I'm spending a whole grand total of $150 a day. But we started to see that when you're looking at the all ads and view charts, the amount of ad spend that we have in this campaign here, we're spending $30 a day. I bumped it up to about $60 a day. Then I bumped it up again to $150 a day. And my per purchase has stayed relatively flat when you're talking about tripling the budget in 30 days. And so our website purchases went from 4, then dipped down to 0, then peaked up at 8 and dipped down to here. But we can see that my 3 chunks of kind of getting my feet wet, scaled up a little bit, and then a larger scale, the median points are at a higher level each time, and it is becoming more effective, and it's easier to scale because these people are more warmed up and there's more new users being added to the existing funnel where they're going to learn everything. I've now sort of, in our first test, this is not the best way to do this, honestly. If I could have taken 6 months and built the best creative in the world and then deployed this, I would have been happy. I just took the most diverse content we could find over the last few years and then tried to put this thing together. But now I have set up essentially a museum, and I'm now bringing you into the museum. Like, this is where Vermont Glove Company was made. And I'm now showing you and educating. On the other side, you're in the gift shop. Grab a glove. That's kind of what this is turning into. So it's really interesting to see how the technical aspect is less important, but the creative aspect is now spotlight.
So on that point, I had a question about this today on a client discovery call. Like, how relevant are media buyers today, more so or less so than they ever were because of Advantage Plus sales, et cetera. Creative is the big thing right now. So media buying is just a commodity. Like, what is your status on that as of right now? And I'm gonna keep myself muted because Starbucks seems to have turned up the volume here for some odd reason. Anyway.
The nightclub that sells coffee. So I don't want to lump media buyers all together. I'm a media buyer. If you think about it, I do most of my days like media buying and strategy kind of thing. I think that we have 3 groups of people. You have the business owner, you have the traditional off the shelf, I will call it standard operating procedure media buyer. And then you have the media buyer that's also a strategist. The business owner, we need to pull out of the digital marketing more and more. I want Vermont Glove to make the Glove 2.0. I don't want them to be taught what click-through rate is on Tuesdays. So I think from a media buyer, they're still more relevant now, more so than ever, because the business owner or the person that is actually in the position to build a brand and do iterations of creative iterations of their products. So doing product development, building a better, faster, quicker engine of their company is the sole thing that they should be focused on. The media buyer doesn't need to be adding value by saying, look at the complex structure I created. The media buyer adds value by saying, I understand the way that I need to work with the next iteration of this algorithm, and I will take it from here, and you need to follow my lead. So if we're measuring media buyer as in, are they technically advanced or are they less technically advanced? That is kind of, I would say, are you decent at your job, or are you faking being a media buyer? That is how I see it nowadays. Is if can you learn, adapt, and grow? Okay, then you're a professional. If you're like, no, I got my SOP the same way I've done it since 1986. Well, those are dinosaurs that die. And that is moving faster and faster, faster. So media buyers as a whole, 100% needed. But the media buyer has to learn, adapt, and leverage. A bad media buyer is going to be just as valuable as the owner doing it themselves. And I think that's where I find the point of demarcation is, if you have a bad media buyer, you're not going to be any better than the owner, because you both are just kind of like winging it. A good media buyer understands that things got more simple. The creative is doing the targeting. The structure has changed. The transition has to be implemented, and the optimizations have to go a certain way. It may have gotten easier with less buttons, but this became more complex to understand.
I think the role of the strategist, I've changed locations, as you can tell here. It was just getting way too loud in there. I'm on the car. See, this is what we do here. But I'm so close to the Starbucks. I'm still connected to the Wi-Fi.
It looks great.
It's actually better. It's way more comfortable and a hell of a lot quieter. Anyway, sorry about that. Before, there was a dance party going on in Starbucks. I just think the strategist role becomes so critical because they're the intersection of traffic and creative, because it's not one or the other, it's both together.
Yeah.
I think that's really where all of this is going, because the pushing of the buttons for Advantage Plus sales, like you said it yourself, like we showed this campaign 3 weeks ago. Have you touched anything since then?
It took 10 minutes to build. I mean, if you have the creative, it takes 10 minutes to build, and I haven't touched this in over a month.
The caveat is if you have the creative too. And you have some good creative there. You don't have like the classic John. We can even show people sort of your matrix of all the different types of creative, which you should probably turn that into a lead magnet at some point in time, because it's so good. The point is like, if you even have like any creative, like think about like what people are going to need. What do they need to know in order to be interested in your product? If you are the avatar that you're trying to target. And it's those types of videos, that type of content. And you didn't even like get all of it here. You just got a little bit of
half. Yeah, maybe a quarter to half of what we I mean, probably 30% of the content diversification, 30% of it we got.
Yeah.
And we're going to be making a lot more, but creative is very difficult. And this is a very small, very well operating, but very small, rural farmland company. So they're not Ivory Tower, New York City with, photo shoots. They're out there yanking on barbed wire. So, but it's exactly
really
right.
Good gloves.
Yeah, exactly. After 1,000 days, you can see what they look like. So again, it's great. So what's really interesting about this is, I think it's almost like media buyer is agnostic. The person that is in charge of informing the owner of what needs to happen in Meta can be called a media buyer, can be called a strategist, whatever you want to call them, whatever label you want to put on them. But I think what we have to look at is is the person that owns the company should be focusing on building their company. Again, to bring up Ryan Dice, I want my dentist to be the best at drilling my tooth. I don't want to teach them email marketing.
Right.
And that's exactly right.
It's a classic. Like you always say that.
Yeah, exactly.
When he did marketing, which apparently he doesn't anymore. So
yeah, right. And so that's what I think is interesting is like media buyers are obsolete if they cannot adapt quickly. Then yes, I would say then you might as well just do it yourself because you're not any better or worse. But you need to hire the people that can understand this and leverage it. And that doesn't need to be, it doesn't need to be anybody specific. It's are you up to speed on everything that is happening at the time it's happening and testing what makes sense logically to both Meta and your particular business instance.
All right. So before we get to questions here, which I know we've got a lot here, which we're going to have to do a lightning round on, I really want to ask you this question. So you set up an Advantage Plus sales campaign. You have 30 or 40% of the creative that's ideal based upon sort of the model that we use. Your campaign's going in the right direction. You're getting $15 NCACs, on a $120, average order value. Mm-hmm. Things are going great. What happens if I start a campaign and I'm getting 220 NCACs at 120 NAOV? And I was like, all right, John says, wait for the algorithm to figure it out. But I'm losing money every single day. And how long do I wait? Like, what has your experience been with that type of scenario? Because we really haven't shown that quite as much here. We've shown more of the success side. But like when it doesn't go your way, what's your guidelines? What's your guardrails?
So I have 3 other companies that we've launched that looks like it's failing in platform, but is successful to Topline. I have yet, knock on wood, launched this new way of doing it and having Topline look worse. I have had in platform look worse. I can share, I can't share the back end. I have a company that we are a part, like equity partners in and owners of through another firm that I've had for a few years that had a negative 30 and negative 40% year-over-year drop since February, March, and April, May, year-over-year drops of 40%. And we went from about 20% to 30% growth to negative 30% and 40% reduction. The first week of killing all 16 campaigns and launching 2 in NCRC, we're back up 12% in the last 20 days, which is the month of June when we started. Now, in platform, looks like NCAC metrics that are in the high hundreds for like $600, $700, $800 for a product that's $200. So in platform looks terrible. But what we saw as a byproduct of this is the reason why it was working is that an Advantage Plus took over and the creative did the targeting. It went off of Instagram and went to Meta, and they are a fashion brand with clothing. So that is like, we want to stay on Instagram. We do not want to go to Meta. When we did first click happy imports, that got more new customers. All of a sudden we saw go off of Meta and then go back to Instagram. And before even all of the metrics have started to come in, we went boop right back to year-over-year growth. So that was the only time where I'm like, oh God, this failed horribly. And then we look at Topline, we're like, oh, everything's fine. Wait a little bit longer, and the metrics are rapidly changing. So they're all of a sudden it's like 80% CPA reduction every like week. So it's catching up. But I have yet to see this fail from a Topline perspective, which is the only way I measure.
Interesting. Okay. Well, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people have tried it. Yeah, I mean, so far so good. I mean,
the hardest thing. I will say this. I'm so sorry. The hardest thing to do though is to not touch this. That's the bad part. People are like, okay, I did it in 2 days. I didn't see it, so I wiped the whole thing. I'm like, nope, not gonna work.
Right. That's what I was gonna ask you. And you're up to like 4 million plus in this test, in this new campaign type. And this is like you're pretty much. I wouldn't say you're batting 1,000, but you're getting pretty close. Like you're.
Yeah. It has not one account has gotten worse. They've all had small amount of better success while this is getting going, or to like a 10x home run kind of thing.
Insane. All right. Well,
cool.
More updates coming for the next ad lab. Hopefully not in the car, but it's much more comfortable in the car. You want to see something funny? So that's apparently my birthday gift that I'm bringing to my other house because my wife's like, you need to bring your own birthday. I'm like, why am I bringing my own birthday gift? Looks kind of big though, doesn't it?
So if you go and get a steamer, you can steam the glue off or the tape off, and then you can peek and then reseal it.
See what it is. Well, unfortunately, I saw it being delivered in its original box, so I have an idea what it is.
Did you wrap it? No.
Well, she actually wrapped it. So anyway,
That's awesome.
it's going to be a big surprise, though. She knows everything. All right,
Cool.
well, let's get the questions here.
All right.
So,
I can kind of read them off too. Yeah, there we go.
yeah, there you go. We got 18 minutes to get through.
33 big money.
33 big money.
All right. What do you think about the impact of Google AI overviews on SEO and ads? So I think the Google AI overviews, I think it is infancy stage. I think there's going to be a gold rush followed by a quick commoditization, followed by a quick restructuring of how this is working. What I mean by that is you're going to see that people quickly found out that your content on your site is what drives Google AI. And everyone said, okay, schema is what drives it. So everyone did blog schema, product schema. Now everyone is like, well, not everyone, the higher end companies are like, okay, now they've updated their schema and now everyone's a race for AI driven content. And dead internet theory is going to come true more quicker than not. Dead internet theory is bots talking to bots online, essentially. Like everything's going to be so automated that there's going to be more bots than people. Dead internet theory. So what I'm thinking is the Google AI is going to be scanning content made by AI. So you have AI making the content and AI retrieving the AI content and then producing that as a result. Now, I think that will be brought up to as far as your quality of your product or your service is going to land. Like you're still going to have great visibility. You still get that kind of that instance. I don't think it's going to be like the thing that 10X is a big company, like a Mag 7 out from another Mag 7 is being able to have better AI content. But right now we're in a SEO race where Google is so smart. Instead of the top 3, top 4 organic spots, it's the top organic AI. And that spot. And so I think that there's going to be a mad dash for a tighter restricted roles, but it is still middle and top of funnel. It's more, you'll see them more come up with questions. What's the best? Where do I get? How do I? Those type of things. You're still going to have the same top of funnel effect as blogs did. But when people are ready to buy, that's where you get a little bit more traditional, which is high intent keywords, shopping, or, you know, a quality build out PMAX campaign optimizing for direct, first click imports or whatever it may be. But I think it is going to enhance it. It's going to make it a little more competitive. However, I do think the commoditization, you're still going to get what SEO turned into is the big players in the game own that spot. So it's like you ask anything about health and you're going to get, health.com answering 80% of the questions.
Right. Yeah.
Because they can afford to produce 10 times the content every minute than a normal smaller company can. So that's what my thought process is so far.
It's interesting though, is like what I've seen, and we've talked about this a lot on professional traffic, believe it or not, is like the vast majority of AI overviews are for research related topics in many cases, but product related stuff is still product.
Yeah.
So I mean that there's pros and cons there, but obviously search traffic for every site, like in every industry, is down dramatically, like 20, 30, 40%, depending on what it is. But I don't see earnings suffering on the Wall Street side as of yet. So
1 to 2% gains and losses here and there, but nothing that's going to revolutionize an industry. No.
Yeah, exactly. So,
different format of the homepage of Google.
You got it.
Yeah.
We're going to be seeing that for sure. Jose's question here. My shopping and PMAX campaigns aren't spending the budget I assigned to them. They're feeder-based campaigns. How can I fix this issue?
If you're shopping and PMAX campaigns, if you're shopping and PMAX aren't spending, pause PMAX, focus on shopping first, because shopping is what is going to teach PMAX automation where it should go, when it needs to live on its own. So I would pause PMAX, move only into shopping. Sounds like your bidding strategy, potentially negative keywords if you had them in there, or maybe feed quality might be suffering. And first thing I would do is do an aggressive bidding strategy on standard shopping, low T ROAS. If that doesn't work, look at feed optimizations. Are your titles and descriptions making sense? Then also is ecom prodigy firings to make sure that those are tagging the users as to what they're doing on the site so it can learn. Start with those areas first. But if you're running PMAX and shopping at the same time, those two can fight each other if the targeted goals are similar.
Makes sense. All right. Julio has a 3-part question, I believe. Hi, John. We're reviewing the spend variation reports on Google Ads. And we're wondering if the same logic can be applied to meta ads, especially when it comes to identifying when a campaign should be scaled. Is that possible?
It depends on what sort of spend variation reports that you're looking at. I look at a lot of different spending variations, like search partners, or if you're looking at kind of like using your if a landing page report, if you're going to be segmenting by MCID to see how much of it was shopping, how much of it was like non-shopping, and like performance max, those things. So I'd have to know a little bit more specifically about which one you're using and what you're using it for. But if you're looking at spend reports of like audience segmentations and meta, those are usually pre-conditioned to what you say. You're like, you know what? I want 0% budget on my existing customers. When we're capping importing things, sometimes half our sales are coming from existing customers, but the meta says we're not spending any money on existing customers. We did a live about that. We showed that on a live a few weeks ago. So sometimes like, or like search impression share is also based on eligibility that you had a pre-set up with your bids and budgets. So it's almost like, is it a cart before the horse? Is it telling you that because you set up that way, or is that the end result of something you were not trying to achieve?
Got it. Makes sense. It's got a second question here. Julio does. Another question we have. Murr of 4 and it's growing, and we're only running Google ads with some email marketing. We have 4 campaigns, each with a budget of $30.
Mm-hmm.
How can we scale without ruining the Murr?
Safe generic response is if you're looking at look at your time lag on a 7-day window, compare your conversions by conversion by conversion time. So compare a conversion column to conversion by conversion time. The amount that is off is going to be your weekly time lag delta. What that means, if you see conversions at 5 and conversion by conversion time is 10 in a week, you have more like a week-long sales cycle because it can double during that week-long time period. So what that would tell me is I would want to increase my budgets every week or 2 weeks, depending on how aggressive you need to be, and start with a 20% increase. If that 20% increase is met with a good CPA by time, but a lagging CPA by click, which means your cost per conversion or cost per conversion by conversion time, if those are following the same increases, then you're going to get a accrual jump first and then a cash jump later. We have a video on this as well, so I'm trying to summarize, but I would essentially look at 20% spend. Did this catch up after a week? 20% spend. Did that catch up after a week? If so, then test even a larger, like let's do 30% spend. Did the metrics catch back up a week later? But don't look at it in a too short of a time period. You might have a 60-day sales cycle. You can have a 24-hour sales cycle. Whatever that sales cycle is, you want to make sure that has a full cycle of time before then saying, okay, now what is my cost per acquisition? Because there'll be a time where your cost goes up, then your conversions lag up, then your costs go up, then your conversions lag up. You don't want to jump the cost and say not working and then back it down because you literally just threw that money away.
And your buy cycle, your cycle from either first impression or first click to conversion varies based on product. You're using a 7-day here, but it could vary based upon whatever Julio is running traffic to. So, and
will also depend upon that's why I'm saying this is generic response. If you're spending 90% of your money on brand and only 10% on cold, your sales cycle is artificially shortened because you're taking a sample size of 90% of the people who already knew they wanted to buy from you in the first place. So sometimes that is not a good indicator. It's an indicator of what you have set up. That's the cart before the horse.
Yeah. Make sure everybody that joined late today watches the bitchin' new ad lab intro here. Mitch, you're that guy. So
man, Mitch, you missed it.
Mitch.
Well, Mitch is here. We can restart.
That's right. Let's restart the whole thing. He only showed up like 10 minutes late. We were what, like 2 minutes late? All right, Dave. That's pretty good for us. Dave Ashley, do you ever use Max CPC with ROAS portfolio bidding? If so, what's the best practice?
I do not actually. One of the reasons why is because when Google believes that a person is going to convert, they will spike that CPC to 2, 3, 4, 10, 20 times your average CPC if they are fairly certain that person is going to convert. And that is something that can get very dangerous when you are looking at capping that. Which means, and I'm going to pull up a quick example here. Well, you know what? I haven't even looked for an example. I'm just going to present screen and we're just going to wing it and see if I'm right. So
let's winging,
right? That's just pretty much my whole life is winging it. So I'm going to go into, let's do search terms.
Our COO loves it when me and you wing, by the way.
Let's see. So the average CPC since April 1st, let's do this. So gut health pills. I definitely do not want to pay $29 cost per click, but I love 100% conversion rate because that gave me a $29 CPA on an average of $150 per cost per conversion. So I got a $29 cost per click and cost per conversion. I got a $28 cost per click and a cost per conversion. I got a $26 cost per click and a cost per conversion. So yes, I would miss the 2 conversions here with a 50% conversion rate and a $41 cost per conversion. But there is nothing in here that is saying that I should not have gone after that. And the other search terms in that area, I want all of those as well. So if you're willing to reduce volume and not be able to get the conversion when Google wants to sell it, you can cap it, but just know you've placed an artificial ceiling in a dynamically moving environment that's only led by your competitors. So you basically set yourself in the back seat and said, please don't hurt me. That's kind of what we did. So that's why we want to look at things to say, do you still want the search terms? Yes. Are they converting at 50 to 100% conversion rates? Yes. I'll take them.
That's amazing. One of our case studies in the PI lawyer space, Ollie, you know Ollie, obviously, is a stud in the PI lawyer space. He paid $829 for 1 click.
Oh, I do it all day long. DUI attorney.
Got a signed case.
That's what, 200 grand probably, maybe?
Well, in that case, and like that's probably about anywhere between 30 to 100 grand. And the lawyer makes 30% on that. So pretty damn good.
If you could guarantee me that every day, I'd give you $1 million. You know what I mean? So that's what's nice.
That was like one of his lowest cost per acquisition, because the average is like 1,500 to 2,000.
It's exactly right. That's my whole theory behind low T ROAS. Like, John, the CPC is going to increase. It's like, but does my conversion rate also? Then who cares?
Does it work? Right. Are you getting conversions? Are you getting the impact that you want?
John, you're going to be number 1 and first found by everybody. Oh, no.
Oh, no, that's terrible. I don't want to make money.
Yeah.
Speaking of money, John Moran's dog is in the house. Google Ads, e-com. What's one small change in account structure that usually leads to a big difference?
E-com prodigy. It's usually something that people never look. I guarantee you everyone watching this has not gone through every account's e-com prodigy, if you're honest with yourself. But that is one thing that's like, oh, do I want the algorithm to learn off the people on my site? Yes, that is the biggest change I've ever seen.
There you go. Killer 1 tip from John Moran. That's why John Moran's dog is here, just to feed us these kinds of nugget questions. All right, what part of a Google ad account is the most often over-optimized, and which part is most often neglected? Is he making like an FAQ of this show? Is that what he's doing here?
I think so. It's almost like he's a new interviewer. He's pining for your job, Ralph. There's where you're asking me questions.
You know, John Moran's dog, you can have my job any day of the week.
So I would say the most over-optimized is search terms and negative keywords. That's usually most over-optimized. Google has switched from what people are searching versus what people are trying to do. And what they're trying to do is capture them during their journey. And there's no one in history of time that looks for red shoes, that Google's red shoes, 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 and then buys red shoes. They're looking for colorful shoes, running shoes, awesome shoes, cool design shoes, red shoes. Oh, he said red shoes. Why didn't he buy?
Wow.
Yeah. So what happens is they're trying to get you in front of the person when they have an intent, but people are like, oh, that's not exactly what I wanted. I want to kill it. It's like, yeah, you're not that psychic. I'm sorry. You can't tell me what everybody's ever going to search ever. So people usually over negate things. Which part is often neglected is feed optimizations, your titles and your descriptions.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, I wouldn't have thought that, but that's a great answer. All right, John Moran's dog back with question 3. He's like Johnny Carson here. What's something you used to think was critical in Google Ads, but now you barely care about? John is the GOAT.
ROAS. Honestly, the in-platform metrics, I have one account that showed I had 13 total sales, and I made some changes. And it actually had 26 new customers. So it was exactly half of what actually happened, but the exact half number was increased by 100% and the top line was increased by 100%. It was just 50% off of the total amount. So it was like 6 to 12. In reality, went from 13 to 26. So I care about the trends, but the number itself, don't really care about.
Okay. I have a question on ROAS, but I'll reserve it because I'd rather have Dave CT ask a question. Got a question with one meta ad account per product and a separate pixel for each product funnel. Pixels aren't on the main site, just on the funnels. Thoughts on that setup? I guess we got a bunch of questions. We might need to do a rapid fire here, but anyway.
So My question would also be, as I know he has a part 2 where it says also not scaling, but also scaling just bumps up frequency, not reach. Creatives aren't great. Too much AI, weak messaging, targeting for. So here's what I would say is if no one ever wanted to know about that brand or Google that brand name or find them organically or ever get back to them, this will work excellent. But that usually is not the case. It's almost like like you said, the product funnel. It's not necessarily even a product funnel because a product funnel, you still can, kind of learn about the brand and get back to the brand and buy. But if the pixels aren't talking to each other, they have highly fragmented squeeze pages, and that is going to implode. Because if what you have to say is, and this might be true, but if that funnel is completely unique from the other funnel, like a person that would buy product A would never buy anything else from that company ever, then it could work really well. But I rarely find a company that's like, we sell elephants and toothpaste. It's like, what? Like, usually it's got a theme. So if those two can cross target, not cross poly, but if they can cross target, that is just death by 1,000 cuts when nothing can optimize. Basically just sits there and vibrates.
Yeah. Yeah. Good question though.
Yeah.
All right. Supernova. Never heard this guy. Please, should I optimize my campaigns as converted leads or keep lead form submissions after uploading offline conversions?
I always will upload off of offline conversions if I can, because I get to be able to, I get to choose the data that I need to send in. So just because it is not in a bad way, because it is more of a vague question, I can only give you more of like a vague response. But the offline imports, I would absolutely do, because you can say like, these are duplications, don't send them in, or these are high quality, send them in. But I usually try to feed it with a high quality data, because Google Meta is a garbage in, garbage out. You give it crappy conversions, you're going to get crappy results.
That makes sense. Last couple of questions here. Thomas, part 1, greetings from Austria. Awesome. It's just in Italy, right near us. We almost went into Austria. Is my FB ads account? In my FB ads account, I still have the option to audience control. I tried your approach and launched an Advantage Plus campaign with 1 ad set and 1 ads, and I failed badly. This was my question earlier.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so every one of our accounts fails badly as well. But in the first week, and that's what's interesting is if you're measuring top line. That's what my question is. It may have failed badly in the platform, but what was the actual top line, positive or negative? Because attribution after launching a new campaign against a campaign that has hierarchy is going to have a transition. There will never really be a time where you transition where it instantly looks better. That's why it's a transition. But look at the top line. If the top line, if your NCAC, your NMER, or your volume, that is the stuff that I'd have to know a little bit more about, because every single time, again, like when I launched 50 ads, only 2 ads worked in the first week. By week 4, I've scaled the company 150% week over or year over year. So that was where I was like, okay, like I couldn't say it was a failure after the first week, because nothing's going to work in the first week, at least on paper. But did it affect negatively or positively the top line is important.
Yeah. Like you always have more time.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Courage is holding on just a little bit longer. I think George Patton said that. So sometimes you have to do that though in these campaigns. All right.
Yeah.
We're gonna rip through these. Meta Girl, how do you know when to swap out the creatives on meta campaigns? AKA, when can you pull the trigger on low performing creatives? Great question.
If you have duplicated creative, which means Meta is ignoring some ads because it believes it's too similar to the other ad, pause those. And then look at the ads that are now non-duplicated. So you've cleaned it out so that you have a good diversity in the ads. What we have 2 different variations. One, you can put a new version of a existing ad in its place and turn off that ad. Essentially you're saying, hey, we have a pretty good ad. It's not as good as everything else, but it's okay. I'm going to try to make a better version of that. Upload a new version of that and pause the original version of that ad and see if that will do better. Because creative targeting when making similar ads in theory should target the same users, or at least engage the people who are currently in the funnel. And if it is better, should earn more attribution. Or you can launch a creative testing campaign at 10% of the budget, test it there. And if it works, then throw it into the main campaign. You just don't want to throw the same ads in the same campaign. Creative's doing is targeting, duplication doesn't make sense. So that's 2 different ways you could do it.
There you go. Words from master right there. We got 3 more questions here. We can get them all done. Part 2 from Thomas West. I use all lookalike audiences and 1 ad set and 20 ads. That works for my book funnel. Budget 100 euros a day. Countries, the big 6. Any advice?
And Thomas, your first question had when you mentioned that you still have the option for audience control. Everyone does. Everyone will have the option. The bigger change with Andromeda is that it is now optional to Andromeda 2. It's a signal or a suggestion. It's not a hard target. I've proven that 10 times here with data. Where even Google's like, or Meta's like, we're not spending a dime on your existing customers, but half of my actual imported conversions off first click are from existing customers. So I know that's true, but what Meta says is happening is not. So I would be cautious about using your audience control and then believing that, because it could be completely ignored, or it could actually absolutely be taken. But if the creative wants to do the targeting, those are developing a fight. So to answer the second question of you use lookalike audience and one asset and 20 ads that works for my book funnel. A funnel is going to be something that if you launch a brand new campaign, a book funnel, I would imagine, is going to probably take a week or 2 or 3 weeks to work well for a book funnel, because you have to educate us to the reasons why someone's going to have to buy a book off of you. That's a very hard sell, which is the book. So my opinion, and I don't know if this is to be true, you do have one ad set with 20 ads, but is it 10 different categories, or are they 12 variations, like 12 different kind of hooks and intros and outros of about the same ad? I would review your creative to say, do I have a founder story? Do I have UGC? Do I have, do I have AI ads? Do you have a DPA? All of those things, just to make sure that you are covering all the categories and then giving it at least a month in time. But I think, in my opinion, book funnels, when I read book funnels, I'm like, that's going to be slower, because it's not just be like, wow, who's this? He seems smart, I'm going to buy a book. It takes time to do that. So unless you're doing it for at least a month with the large creative variations and even iterations of the creative, I'm wondering if we have given that good old college try. I do have to jump, everyone. I'm 3 minutes late, and I do have to. Actually, let me just do this. There's 2 more questions.
We'll do 2 more, and then
I'll do this real fast.
Fast.
All right. Year-old skill care brand with a lot of education needed. How would you approach content strategy, and where would you send traffic? A year-old skincare brand, you are going to have to devote a lot of examples. Like, this is how it is on lighter skin, darker skin, freckle skin, tan skin, all that kind of stuff. Different things. Those are where people are wanting it. It's so hard to buy from a picture, especially when your skin tone doesn't match. So get
diversity of creative.
And then cleanliness. What's in there? What is it? Does it have paraffins, dyes? Do you have products, ingredients in there that are banned in European countries? No, you got to make out a copy. Have you taken, now this is where this kind of, this ad lab is going to be good for you. Look at your landing page and everything that you've ever done on your website. Have you chunked that out into different ad creations, make 10 different ad categories of that one unique selling proposition, and then test that for a month? Like, you're going to have to live and die by just constant creative. But I would do this. I would interview 25 different, my opinion would probably female/male mixes, but more often female, just because that's what we have to do for targeting as marketers. Usually more females wear makeup. And then say, hey, what's important to you when you're buying makeup? That is probably going to give you 100% more information than me just kind of thinking here. I would honestly do an interview of 25, 30 females and some males to say, what is the most important thing to you for your skincare brand? Well, it's greasy, it's smudges. Oh, those are all things that's content fodder for you right there. All right. How do you ensure you are getting quality traffic? Right. Don't ask me. I don't wear makeup. I'm bad. I don't even have hair. How do you ensure you are getting quality traffic when using feeder strategy?
I know an awful lot about makeup. It doesn't have hair. That's right.
Right. Exactly. How do you ensure getting quality traffic when using feeder strategy and optimizing for view content? Add to carts. The cost for add to cart on view content should be cheaper than the cost for add to cart in your conversion campaigns. All right, I gotta go, everybody. I'm gonna jump really quick. 5 minutes late. All right. I'll see you all later.
Thank you all for joining the Ad Lab. See you next Friday, same time, same channel, 2:30 Eastern. See ya.
Yep. Bye, everybody.